Good morning, class. Today is 3rd May, Monday, and our topic is separation of substances. In that lesson, we have studied what is the separation of substances. Okay, now, and in the previous class, we have studied about the methods of separating of substances. In that point, we have get also some points that first is separating solids from other solids, separating insoluble solids from liquids, separating soluble solids from liquids, and separation of liquids. In our first method means separating solids from other solids. Okay, now we have get some also points that first is hand picking, second threshing, fourth winnowing, and fifth is sieving. Okay, now and we have also done the all points of separating solids from other liquids. Now today we are going to move on and we are going to study about the separating insoluble solids from liquids. Okay, now we have studied how solids can be separated from a mixture of solids. Now let us study how to separate a mixture in which one component is an insoluble solid while the other is a liquid. Okay, in that method we have also some points that first is sedimentation and decantation, second is filtration, and third is loading. Sedimentation and decantation, second is filtration and loading. Okay, now first point is sedimentation and decantation. The substance which are insoluble and heavier than water are separated by sedimentation and decantation. In this process, the mixture is left undistributed for some time. The heavier components settles down. The process of settling down of the heavier insoluble components is known as sedimentation. Okay, take a recall. The process of settling down of the heavier insoluble components is known as sedimentation. The insoluble solids particles that settle down solid particles that settle down are called sediments, while the clear liquid that remains above sediments is called supernatant. Okay, pouring out of this liquid without distributing the sediments is known as what? Is known as decantation. Okay, now it's time for the second point, that is filtration. Okay, if we talk about the filtration, what is filtration? You must have observed that after tea is prepared, tea leaves are removed from the tea by pouring it through a strainer. Tea passes through the strainer, leaving the tea leaves behind. Similarly, when cheese is prepared from milk, the mixture of the cheese and water is poured over a muslin cloth. Over a muslin cloth. Water passes through the cloth while cheese particles remain on the cloth. The process of separating an insoluble solids from a liquid by passing the mixture through a filter is known as filtration. Let's recall that. What is filtration? This process of separating an insoluble solid from a liquid by passing the mixture through a filter is known as what? Is known as filtration. The clear liquid, if we talk about the clear liquid obtained after filtration is known as what? Filtrate. Filtrate. While the insoluble solid that is left behind on the filter is known as residue. Residue. Okay, now it's time for you. Next point. Next is loading. Loading. Okay, let's talk about the loading. Sometimes very fine particles of a solid are suspended in a liquid. These take a lot of time to settle down. So to speed up the process of sedimentation, a substance called alum is fit kari beta. Okay, now alum is added to the mixture. Alum helps the particles to stick together, thus becoming heavier and then settling down. The clear water can be carefully decanted. Leaving behind the impurities. this process, where very fine particles of a solid suspended in a liquid are made heavier with the help of alum. Alum means fitkery is known as what? Is known as loading. Okay, now it's time for your homework. What is sieving? You have to tell me what is sieving. Thank you.